Hey friends, so I wanted to share this story with you, right, because, you know, it's a pretty cool story. Okay, so basically I found this chick and she told me a story in detail of how she got rid of her horrendous labral tear pain with physical therapy alone over a 6-month period, okay? So, but she had a cam type impingement and, like, you know, femoral acetabulum impingement, you can get pincer type impingement and cam type impingement. Okay, I'm not going to go into what that actually means here because that'll be like another video to explain that. But anyway, I've got a journal article which explains if you have a cam type impingement, basically the labrum generally stays intact more, but it tends to detach from the bone or the I think detach from the bone or the cartilage. And it's like a bucket handle tear, if you imagine. Okay, so, and then if you've got a pincer type impingement, and I've got that, what normally happens is it's actually a lot worse. It tends to basically degenerate the substance in the labrum. And I do have that from all my split stretch. You know, I have like a macerated labrum. It's really bad. And I've also got a subchondral cyst on the pincer, on the socket. And that's like a common finding for if you've got a pincer impingement. Often you'll find the subchondral cyst on the on the socket, and the overlying cartilage, because there's a hole in the bone, the cartilage can't attach to anything. So I've got a focal bit of cartilage missing in that spot. But anyway, apparently if you've got like a cam type impingement, you can get actually subchondral cysts or like bone cysts, which mean holes in the bone on the femur. Anyway. So, you know, there's all different types of labral tears, okay? You know, a labral tears just isn't one type of labral tear. You can get all this, you know. But anyway, so she had a cam impingement. So she had, obviously, a bucket handle type tear, which she basically got out of the pain with PT alone. But then she ended up I think she said she was, like, pretty much pain-free after 6 months of PT. Okay, I'm going to read it all here for you. But, but she ended up getting surgery anyway because for a sport, every time she tried to jump a horse, the pain would come back. Okay, but anyway, you'll hear all that in her story, okay? So, okay. So, she had surgery, and then the surgeon used 5 anchors. That's friggin' a lot of anchors, right? But she went back to her sport, and like, I think, I don't know, 6 months to a year, I don't really kind of get it, but you'll hear it in here. The labrum tore again, would you believe? And this time, so she went back to the doctor, she said, oh, my labrum's torn again. Like, and this was like one of the best surgeons in America, and that's what that PT told me. Like, her PT, I contacted him, and I was doing PT with him. And I am, you know, not often, you know, because he lives in America. You know, it's a bit of a, you know, it's hard when we don't see each other, you know. So, but anyway, he was telling me that even the best hip surgeons in America, which are Mark Philippon and Brian White, like even their success rates are really not that good. You know what I mean? And he said that people have only known about labral tears for like 10 years, and he said before that he was getting about 40% of all people with terrible hip pain, he was getting them out of pain with physical therapy alone. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so tell you this girl's story. Okay. So I got all this information because it's a long story how I found her. You know, it was just by accident, and then I quizzed her, and she was really good at answering my questions, but she doesn't even talk to me anymore. I think I just asked her too many questions. She just thought I was a pain in the ass, which I am, and she just stopped replying to me. Fair enough, okay? But anyway, we got this information prior to that happening. Okay. Both surgeries were done on my left hip. Before I saw Dr. White, I saw 2 other surgeons, and in the time, 3 to 4 months, I was in excruciating pain all of the time. I was often on crutches, I couldn't work, and I had a really hard time sitting through class on those stupid hard chairs. I would basically go to school, come home and cry. It hurt whether I was sitting, standing, walking, lying down, everything. It started as just an occasional ache or sharp pain, but I think it just got so inflamed and angry after limping around in it for months, not to mention the havoc it wreaked on the rest of my body. I tried pretty much everything, including Rolfing, the cortisone injection, rest, Celebrex, etc., etc., etc. It wasn't until I found a really wonderful PT who was actually recommended to me by a surgeon who told me I should give up my sport because I was too young to operate on that I started feeling better. He, the PT, recommended me to Dr. White, who realised not only had a tear but some FAI resulting from cam impingement. By the time I had surgery, I had done around 8 months of PT and I was walking normally and working out, so I went into surgery fairly strong. When I read that bit, she was like in all that pain and she was back to walking normally and working out. I was like all over that, man. So like I asked her some follow-up questions, which we get the answer to in here, okay? But anyway, get to that. Sorry, I'm coughing a lot because I was doing something outside and I breathed in a bit of dust and stuff. So sorry about the coughing. Anyway, okay. So the MRA only showed a small tear, but he actually put in 5 anchors and had to shave down some bone. After a 6-month recovery, everything was going great and I was able to compete. I ride horses for 6 months or so. Unfortunately, I started to get the same kind of pre-op pain and I knew that something was wrong. So I went and saw him again and I had retorn it. So she retore it after a year, seeing the best hip surgeon in friggin' America, or the second best, Brian White. Okay, he did a reconstruction this time. You know this girl. She's only 19 when she got this labral reconstruction. Fucking crazy. Anyway, personally I would have given up riding horses, but anyway, okay. So, yeah, okay. So, retort. He did reconstruction this time and now I'm 4 weeks post-op. Okay. Okay, so I was like, what the hell did you do to get out of all that pain? So she wrote back. She said, it was probably 3 to 4 months before I started PT. The first PT I saw was very honest and told me he didn't know how to help me, but my second PT had seen a lot of these injuries and immediately improved my pain. The first thing he told me was not to cross my legs when I sit, which I had been doing all along, not knowing it was causing pinching in my hip. After that, I was very aware to make sure that I sat with my legs out in front of me, like the picture I've included below. It's not here. He also told me to start sleeping with a pillow between my legs at night. I'm a side sleeper. He also says to put a pillow under your knees when you're lying on your back, okay, because it takes the pressure off the labral tear, okay, off an anterior labral tear, just to give you that tip. Okay, just doing those few simple, seemingly insignificant things along with standing on a stair with my good leg and letting my bad leg hang down and simply swing, and eventually just doing some small circles to get my hip moving along with quadrupt rocking, my pain improved enough that I could actually start doing some strengthening exercises along with some dry needling. Biking, only on an upright stationary bike, was big, and I think that getting into a pool to just get my leg moving with no pain was helpful. I then did a lot of glute exercises using bands, including bridges, straight leg raises on my side, lying down, fire hydrant, side steps with bands, double and single leg squat holds with bands, and these progressed to harder exercises as I got stronger. I also did ab and hamstring exercises with an exercise ball. I was 16 when I first injured it, 17 when I got my first surgery, and 19 when I got my second. Okay. Okay. So then I said, really? So would you mind describing to me how your pain reduced over the months, okay? And how much exercise, how much of this strengthening you actually did every day to achieve these results, okay? So, she replied, I'll try to sort out my timeline because it's somewhat convoluted. I initially told my labrum in March of 2013, although I did not know it at the time. I was simply told I had bruised my hip badly and I was on crutches for a few weeks, but then pretty much pain-free. I continued all my regular activities, which involved riding and jumping horses, probably until August. My pain then slowly developed. It started as a sharp pain in my groin area when doing certain movements such as pivoting, getting on and off my horse, etc. Over the course of maybe a month or so, it progressed to a constant dull ache and I would feel it catch in my groin, along with a sharp pain again with certain movements. By the time I went to get my first opinion, which I believe was in September, my hip was on fire. I know now that my hip flexors were probably extremely inflamed, but I had searing pain from almost my ribs down to my knee. My back was messed up from walking so weirdly. I still had the sharp pains in my groin and the catching, but I also felt an extremely deep and painful ache all along my femur, and it honestly felt like a broken bone type of pain. I went back on my crutches after seeing him and got an MRA done. I'd say that was her first surgeon she consulted. He diagnosed me with a small labral tear and said if it wasn't better in a week to do surgery. We felt we should get a second opinion, so we saw a second surgeon also in September, who I hated and would never recommend in a million years. I saw one PT for several sessions during this time, but he had never really seen any labral tears, so he told me he didn't know how to help me. At this point, I would say I was in a 7 to 8 amount of pain pretty much all of the time. I had trouble sitting through class, I couldn't walk, it hurt to sit in the car, and my pain never really subsided, even when I was lying down. Some days I would come home after school crying and take Vicodin, which wouldn't even touch the pain, and I couldn't sleep. I had quit working. I had a job at the local grocery store which required standing for 7 to 8 hours, which I just couldn't do, and I didn't do any physical activity. The pre-op pain I had was so much worse than any post-op pain I've had, if that's any consolation. The second surgeon I saw told me to go off crutches, which was done because then I just hobbled around, causing myself even more pain. And he had me get my hip injected, which just caused a major flare-up with no pain relief. However, he did recommend me to a wonderful P2 who was my saving grace. I would say that I started seeing Russ in November 2013. I saw him twice a week, and in maybe 2 to 3 weeks my hip had calmed down enough that I could actually start doing some real exercises, and I came off the crutches. So by December of 2013, I would say my pain level was more like a 5 to 6, and over the next 2 months they decreased to more like a 3 to 4. I would still get sharp pains in my hip, catching and achiness, but not nearly as bad. After nearly 6 months of PT, I was basically pain-free, 1 to 2 on the scale when I did have pain, which wasn't often, until I tried to jump my horse, May 2014. I went back to see the second surgeon asking what I should do because my groin pain returned when I started jumping, and that was my ultimate goal. He told me to give up riding, that I was too young to do surgery on, and that I shouldn't come back until I could squat like 200 pounds or something ridiculous like that. That's when I said adios to him and went to see Dr. White, who my PT had recommended. I saw Dr. White in probably May of 2014 as well. He redid an MRA, caught the cam lesion that was causing impingement that my second surgeon did not, and scheduled me for surgery in July 2014. I continued to do PT after seeing Dr. White, and by the time I had surgery I basically had no pain. Only the occasional twinge in my groin area. So that's what I'm saying. She had no pain. Like, by the time she had surgery, I think it was like 8 months after she started PT. As I understand it, I think. Okay, so with PT alone. I was back to working and flattening my horse, no jumping. I would say that in the first month of PT, I only spent 15 minutes on exercises every day because it was so flared up. I would bike for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Month 2 and 3, I did more like 20 to 30 minutes of exercises along with 15 to 20 minutes of biking. Then from month 4 of PT onwards, I probably did anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour of exercises along with 45 minutes of biking. If I hadn't wanted to start jumping again, I probably could have gone a lot longer before getting surgery strictly with physio, dry needling, etc. but that was all I really cared about doing, and the impact on your hips when you jump a horse is quite large. Also, when you ride horses, it tends to strengthen adductors, pulling your hips in, causing them to pinch. So I spent all my time trying to counteract this by strengthening my glutes and abductors. That being said, because I had some impingement, I believe my tear would have eventually gotten worse to the point where I needed surgery anyway, but I probably could have gone a significant amount of time before getting it. Okay? So, I have seen others, some other young girls, or other people actually. I saw a young girl the other day in New Zealand. A few months ago, she was freaking out about how much pain she was in. And then the other day, I see that she's back to ice skating before surgery, right? And I don't know how old she is, I forget. She's like 13, 14, 15, I can't remember exactly. Anyway, and I said, what did you do? How come you can back ice skating? And she said that she kept strengthening. And she also said she was on some kind of, I think, anti-inflammatory medication or something like that. I asked her what type, but she didn't reply. Okay, fair enough. So, and I've seen another guy get out of labral tear pain from glute strengthening and foam rolling. Okay, so, anyway, but like I said, I don't know if that's going to happen for me because, it's really bad for me. And also, I should warn you guys, I had an injection for my MRA which included 0.5% of 10 mil of 0.5% bupivacaine, which is highly chondrotoxic or toxic to cartilage, right? I'm so pissed off. That's another video if anybody's interested, but basically that compromises the cartilage, if not immediately, over time. So I'm really fucking pissed off about that and how that's actually going to affect me in the long term, but I'm trying not to entertain those fearful thoughts. But it just, I personally had enough to deal with just what was going on in my hip before, being exposed to a chemical, but, a chondrotoxic chemical, which he doesn't have to use. There's other options, or like a lesser concentration, a lower amount. So just be wary of that, folks, anyone that wants to. I just don't think the anesthetic injection into the hip is useful, and the reason for that, looking back, I was just stupid. I mean, how could I known that an anesthetic could damage your joint, okay? The surgeon should know this. Anyway, but some of them do, but they still use it anyway. I think that's what happened with this guy. I'm so pissed off. Anyway, but the bottom line is that, often they give you this anesthetic injection, right, to test to see if the pain is coming from within the joint, okay? They say if we can inject you with anesthetic, if it takes away your pain, it means the pain's coming from in the joint, okay? And if it doesn't take the pain, it means the pain's coming from out of the joint, right? But I'll tell you why that reasoning is flawed, okay? And, I'm just a dickhead. I didn't think of this, right, before. But like I said, how was I supposed to know? How would you know that, this anesthetic is chondrotoxic unless you'd done all the research prior? You just wouldn't expect a surgeon to be so stupid, okay? Or irresponsible, anyway. Or take the risk when the risk is not necessarily like that. Okay, but anyway, the point is that the anesthetic, you saw this girl. She had pain coming from within the joint, right, the labral tear. But what she did is she basically changed the way, with PT and heaps of glute strengthening, she changed the way the ball sat in the socket. And basically from all that PT, she took the pain off the labral tear, you see. So she basically, just changed the way the ball sat in the socket. So it wasn't kind of leaning on the labral tear all the time and aggravating the pain all the time. So that's what I'm saying, if you inject with an anesthetic, if it takes away your pain, it could still be, labral tear pain from within the joint, but it could be from, faulty biomechanics pushing on that labral tear, okay? Because the other thing I want to mention, I've got a journal article. Anyone who wants a copy, just contact me and I can email you a copy. It's basically they studied people that had no pain in their hip, okay? And they did MRAs of them, I think, or MRIs, okay? And would you believe, out of all the participants, 69% of them had labral tears. And they had 0 hip pain, okay? So, what's that tell you? Okay, so having a labral tear, and like I said, you know, being able to take away the pain with an anaesthetic injection doesn't necessarily mean that your pain is from the labral tear, although you could be getting pain from the labral tear, but like I said, it could be this faulty biomechanics, okay, which you could potentially correct with lots of glute strengthening. Okay, sorry I went on a bit, sorry I got a bit pissed off about the anaesthetic thing, having trouble letting that go. Anyway, I have to do that in time. I'm just trying to think positive and do what I can now to try and help my cartilage for the future. Okay, because I can never have a hip replacement. That's another story. Anyway, okay. Well, thanks for watching. If you're still with me after this long of me rambling on, and I hope this video was interesting and helpful. And if there's anything you would like me to elaborate further on in another video that I've discussed in this video, just let me know. Okay. See you later.